Welcome, everybody, to Come Back to Love. Thanks to all of our listeners who are joining us each week on Dream Vision 7 Radio. I'm Robin Vogel, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm a love and intimacy coach, an internal family systems therapist, and the host of this fabulous radio show where we have amazing guest experts that give us insight and tools all relating to coming back to love with ourselves. First, it's an inside job before bringing it out into the world, either through relationship, partnership, your work, whatever it is, and however it is that you spread love in the world. I'm starting this episode today solo. I'll be having my guest join us in about 3 minutes. I wanted to introduce this topic first of mother wound. It's a really delicate, sensitive, heartfelt, deep topic of the mother wound. And so I wanted to just take a moment and introduce it today. Today is actually the date of this recording, May 13th, 2025, is the birthday of my partner, Dale Sharon, who died 17 years ago. And so it's also a very tender day for me to be recording and having this conversation with Shelly Sharon, who I cannot wait to introduce you to. And what a coincidence, I'll just say, that the universe provided to drop this date in front of me, the date of Dale's birthday, celebrating him and the connection that we had in our lifetime while he was here on the planet. And also, many of you know from listening to my radio show that my mother died when I was 10 years old. So this topic of mother wound and loss is really poignant for me. It is absolutely the core of the work that I have done in my life over the last 50 years. I guess I didn't start doing it when I was 10 years old, but that was the age that I was when my mother passed away. And so when I started diving into healing and growth finally in my mid 20s, the main focus has been on the mother wound. And it's been a journey. It's been trying, it's been challenging, it's been scary, it's been wonderful, it's been devastating, it's been joyful, it's been everything. And so I feel really, really grateful to have Shelly on this radio show today. And I just wanted to invite you into my internal world just for a moment before having her join us. So, welcome to all of the guests. Grab a cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee or some water. You might want to take some notes, possibly bring your journal and a pen to this episode of Come Back to Love Radio. And I will be right back with Shelly Sharon. So, welcome again to our listeners. As I just mentioned, I have a really special guest this week, Shelly Sharon, and I am, as I said, so happy to have you here. This topic is, again, so poignant and precious to me. And I found out and learned about you and your work through the Mother Wound Summit that you and Marissa Sim had done together. And I've also had Marissa on the show. And I said this to you already, but I'm going to say it again. And so our listeners know that there's a lot of summits out there in the world and have been for many, many years. And some I've participated in and spoken in and created. But this one, when I saw it, I just first of all, I felt the energy of it, and it was very like calm and heart-centered. And I actually cleared my calendar, which is kind of in the world of entrepreneurship unheard of. I literally like carved the time out in my day to participate. And I really, really loved how you did it and what you created and how just important and deep the work was that was shared. And I'm so happy to connect with you beyond that and have you on the show today. So thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Robin. And also, it's so good to know how the summit touched you. Anybody who ran a summit could probably tell you how it's such a hard work.
Yes.
And Marisa and I made an effort to be very clear onto what's the purpose that we're creating this. And yeah, the purpose was very clear that we really want to touch the hearts of women who need to hear they're not alone and
Mm.
to know that there is a way to healing the mother wound. It doesn't have to be your best kept secret. So I'm really looking forward to talk more about that today. Thank
Yes.
you.
As you dropped in that seed of best kept secret, that just reminds me, and I had just shared with my listeners, and I'll share again, that my mother left the planet when I was 10 years old. She died of breast cancer that was misdiagnosed and diagnosed too late, and misdiagnosed and then diagnosed too late. And so she lived about 4 years um, with, through treatment and surgeries and all of that stuff. And it was a big secret. You just sort of brought up this kind of being alone and also hiding from it. And I know you also might have meant it in a different way, which we'll get into, but it was a secret. My family didn't tell us, me and my sister, about what was going on, and they didn't talk to people about it, especially in those days, like in the early 70s, right? In the
Mhm.
US at least. It wasn't something that you wanted to talk about out loud. And even after she died, we didn't talk about it. Like, they didn't talk about it. My family didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it with my friends. And what I learned was to not talk about it and to just stay as quiet as possible. And it really, that created a whole thing in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really it's a huge burden, isn't it, to carry that kind of secret. And it's also interesting to me what you said, like maybe you didn't mean that kind of a secret, but what I'm curious about is how almost all my clients have some form of secret around the mother wound. Um, and it just shows up in different ways or in different contexts and scenarios. Like one woman that I worked with even had to keep that as a secret that she's working with me from her partner. For example, because
Wow.
she really criticized for actually going to therapy, um,
Wow.
or yeah, keeping that as a secret from the family because another client of mine who comes from Asia. And those who are listening might know I've had the privilege of working with many women from Asia, Southeast Asia, and there's a lot of shaming ingrained in the
Mm.
culture of not only going to therapy, at least that's my experience. I'm not kind of posing kind of general rule here, but what I've heard from the women that I've worked with is that evaluating your relationship with your mother in an unfavorable way brings a huge exclusion and a kind of like an avalanche of shaming. And so needing to keep that as a secret because nobody in the family will resonate with you. You will face a lot of shaming and judgment and criticism. And yeah, just so many different kinds of secrets. I know that mine was kept in secret from another reason that maybe many women could resonate with is that when you're a child, you feel like that's how I felt. Like I it's my fault that
Mm.
I'm not being mothered. It's my fault that my mother is unwell or that my mother is not as involved as other kids in the school or kindergarten or later on in year. I had to keep it as a secret because in my personal case, my mother is suffering from mental illness.
Mm.
And as part of her mix, because there is a cocktail of different kind of mental challenges, which is often the case. And one of them was chronic depression, wasn't the only thing. And so our house was often dark,
Mm.
um, you know, unkept, not necessarily clean. I had to cook lunch for my sister, myself from a very early stage. So I was ashamed of my home environment and I couldn't really invite anyone over to my home. So I had to keep that as a, the secret is just it comes as a like as a package with a mother wound, and especially in our society when there is so many conflictual messages around women. On the one hand, we're supposed to be superheroes and supermothers and the best unconditionally loving person, and on the other hand, we are constantly limited. We are shamed as women. We are not given proper equal rights to thrive and to benefit from our personal and feminine skills and capacities. So we're kind of like locked in between these two arenas, not really knowing how to navigate that. And so shame comes into that because when we need to keep something locked away from the public eye, whether it's the family or the collective public, then we'll develop shame. And this is where the secret comes in.
Hmm. Wow, interesting. All these years, and I'm 59 this year, turning 60 at the end of this year. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Yes, yes, congratulations is absolute.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, I think I never, yeah, I never really put that together, the piece around the secret, as much work. I mean, as I was saying to my audience earlier, it's the primary work I've done in my life, to heal. And it's been my primary focus for obvious reasons. And I don't think I really knew that holding a secret was common. I think until this moment I thought I was the only one that had to hold that really big secret of what was going on and then what happened. And yeah, and the impact.
Yeah, yeah. When society misses out intentionally or unintentionally on
Mm.
some lenses of our human experience, then we learn to understand or interpret or engage with our own experience through filtered, muddied lenses.
Mm.
And so we get to understand our own experience as something that is completely off charts. And this is the big part of why I do the work that I do.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily easy to talk about the mother wound.
No,
I still get rolling eyes. I still get
really.
comments on social media that I should surely, after all these years, I should be able to forgive my mother. Not that I didn't, or even if I hadn't, it's really not the point. Many women that talk to me or come to work with me, they say, you know why I want to work with you? Because I feel like you've done the work. I
Mm.
don't feel that you speak about the mother wound or your own personal childhood experience with rage or with hatred, or with blaming. Yeah. When I read your texts, your newsletters, I don't feel triggered because I feel you've done the work.
Mm.
And so yeah, a big part of, you can even say, the movement that I aspire to create is
Yes.
for women to feel that they have safe spaces to get unburdened from that secret, and that the lenses, the right lenses to understand their experience, and then to find the right tools, the right therapy rooms are there for them.
Mm.
Because when you know what to look for, you know how to read the room and say, okay, this corner is the right one for me, not that one.
That's beautiful. So many places I want to dive into, but before I ask my next question, I want to share that there's a place nearby where I live now outside of Boston. It's not, is it there now? I think maybe it is still there. It's called the Children's Room, and it's a center for children who have experienced, some kind of trauma, mostly loss, um, and death. And that's the focus of the work there. And as you were talking, I thought, wow, wouldn't that be amazing to have like a center for the mother wound, like a physical place people could go along with a virtual place. But wow, imagine the possibilities of a healing environment like that where you're you're just like everybody else and you have access to all of these different modalities. Anyway, I'm dreaming about it now.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of like I have butterflies now because you're actually giving voice to one of my dreams.
Wow.
I can imagine that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And part of the work that I come from special education in my background,
Hmm.
and I still do partly work with children. I feel like it gives me an opportunity to contribute
Hmm.
to a different kind of generation.
Hmm.
And I love it when mothers come to work with me,
Hmm.
because one of the biggest concerns of mothers is can I actually be a different mum than the one that I had when I didn't have a role model? Or can I actually be the kind of mum that I envision when I see myself get triggered in spite of my best efforts and saying the things that I promised myself I will never say
Oh
to
yeah.
children? Yeah. So when I get to when mums come to work with me, it's a beautiful opportunity to break the generational trauma and to break the cycle and create something else. But I also wanted to add at the piece of the children's center is that when I worked as a special education teacher, in one of my posts, I worked in a boarding school, and I particularly worked with a group of children who were taken out of their house
Mm.
with legal measures because their house was just a too dangerous place for them to grow up in.
Yeah.
And what I was astonished by was that no matter the level of neglect, physical, emotional abuse, or any kind of scenarios, children always were looking forward to the weekend where they could go and visit
Mm.
their parents.
Wow.
And that kind of hope is something that we carry around us with
Hmm.
the mother wound.
Hmm.
That mum one day will figure out how she hurt us and that she will apologize, or that we will be one day able to have that kind of conversation that we've never managed to have,
Hmm.
or one day mom will understand what I need or how to listen to me, and she'll be able to turn the corner and give it to me.
Hmm.
That kind of hope is also, and so you brought children, and that's the first thing that sparked out for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
What's present for me after listening to that piece from you is this desire, which I witness actually in my own daughter who was adopted. So I adopted. I have a daughter with a mother wound, and what I recognize in her, what I see in her, is this desire to be quote unquote normal. And I think that's what shows up for me also, and along with what you shared about, wanting to go home on the weekends and just this strong, I know I had it myself, like my whole entire childhood, I just felt like I wanted to be normal. And what is normal anyway? And to me, my own perspective on myself was that I was having a very abnormal experience in life that, in my perspective, looking around, nobody else was having. I mean, that's what I saw with my lens. Um, so that's what that
Yeah.
reminds me of, like this strong desire to be normal and fit in and belong.
Yeah, yeah. And that also speaks to me, and it's also a very common experience of many women that I work with and that have. And I remember there were so many moments in my life where I prayed to be normal. I remember in particular one moment when I was actually already in high school, and so I had a little better understanding of how my home will probably never be normal. Um, and in fact, at that particular time, my mother had abandoned us and she left in the middle of the night. So I was left with my little sister, my 3 years younger
Mm.
than me sister. And we were separated. I went to live with my great grandmother, and my sister went to live with another relative. And I was just playing out in high school break with friends, and somebody said to me something, I can't even remember what, but I got offended. And
Mm.
in that particular moment, I couldn't hold back the tears
Mm.
because I was told so many times that I'm too sensitive, and I learned how to control my tears. I learned how to not show my sensitivity. I couldn't really learn how to not be sensitive, but I learned how to not show my sensitivity
Hmm.
and how to hold back my tears. And at that particular moment, I kind of like I broke and I couldn't hold my tears back. And it was kind of like a confirmation of how abnormal I was. And I felt so ashamed and also so confused by that. And oh goodness, thank goodness for all the women and anyone is listening right now. What I wish for you is to not be normal,
Yes.
but yeah, but enjoy who you are and understand what that means, because normal is really kind of squeezing yourself into a box, and that box is an idea of someone else that says this is the perfect human being, or this is the perfect childhood, this is the perfect mother, this is the perfect mother-daughter relationship. And if you really open your eyes, it doesn't really exist.
No, it really doesn't. It's just sort of a facade. It
Yeah,
really means nothing, actually.
yeah,
It really means nothing. And it does take some time to really understand that and see that. And I'm going to guess that 100% of our listeners have had the experience, some experience of wanting to be normal.
mm,
And sadly, as because we're human, so many experiences of feeling shame for not being that elusive normal that doesn't
yeah,
exist. Yeah. So
yeah,
let's take a step back. We'll go on a commercial break in a few more minutes, but let's take a step back to to defining mother wound. I think, there might be some listeners out there just not even really knowing if they fit into that, speaking of fitting into that category, or like, really curious about how you define it.
yeah. And it's a really good question, and I'm so happy that we didn't start there, because because when we hear a definition, we go into a very narrow analytical mind to think like, does that describe me, or And one of the caveats with a mother wound, I promise I will give you a definition in a moment. I will satisfy that curiosity. But one of the caveats with the mother wound is that there is a very natural mechanism of, it's called in psychology, normalization. So there is something that feels very off, very triggering, very unsafe when you get the sense as a very young being that your mother is not present for you, or is not a safe person, or this is a relationship that disappoints you over and over again. It's just too much. It's overwhelming for our system. So we tend to normalize that. But the thing is that with a lot of survival mechanisms, that they become part of how we approach other experiences in life, because we've repeated them over and over again. And so when I define the mother wound, I look at it as a spectrum. Yeah, I look at it as a spectrum, because the tendency is, oh, my story is not as tragic, not as difficult, not as traumatic as hers, then I don't belong there. Yeah, that mother wound is not necessarily
Mm,
relevant for me. I need to
yes.
have, like, I grew up with a mentally ill mother, and then one client that came to work with me said, well, you know, my story is not as bad as yours.
Right.
And she tells me about how her mother had a big trauma in her childhood. And so when she gave birth to my client, she was super anxious about her health,
Mm,
like really hypochondriac. And my client today suffers with a lot of difficulties around her health.
mhm,
And she finds it very difficult to discern whether there is a difficulty there or it comes from the legacy that her mother left her with. So the mother wound is or is present when there is a consistent lack of safety, guidance, and nourishment
mhm,
in the relationship with your mother.
mm,
And this is situated in a society that, as mentioned earlier, limits women's capacity to explore and express themselves.
mm,
This is when you have a mother wound.
mm. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. I feel that in my
yeah,
heart. I feel it behind my eyes. And yeah, that's,
yeah.
thank you for naming that.
Mm.
Okay, we're going to pause right here for commercial break and come back and talk about what do we do? What do
Yeah.
we do about it? We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio. We're on Dream Vision 7, and we are here today with Shelly Sharon talking about the mother wound. I really love the definition you gave. And when I'm listening, probably similar to you, I'm listening with words, I'm listening with my energy because we're energy beings. And when you were speaking at the end there, it's like it landed so strongly energetically, the definition and the awareness of carrying the mother wound and its impact for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So, actually, I'm just gonna sort of interject here. When we were on the commercial break, I had asked you if you knew this woman whose name is Hope Edelman that I connected with when I was, I want to say in my early 20s. So I'm just kind of guessing there. So anyway, a long time ago, 25 years ago, and she published a book called Motherless Daughters. And
All right. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really hadn't done a lot of work yet when I discovered the book. And just reading those words, just so much showed up for me. I think, some because of the shame, because of the secret. How could somebody say this out loud? Never mind, write an entire book on her experience. And then there were these motherless daughters, like groups that met around the country. So I'm planting that seed for you, Shelley. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
and yeah, it was too intense for me at the time. I hadn't done enough healing on myself to actually participate and show up and be in any way, shape, or form able to engage with people at the time. I went by myself to New York City from Boston, sat in the back of a room in a bookstore where she was speaking, and I felt like the whole entire world was going to drop out from underneath me. Like
Mm.
I'm tearing up just talking about it. I couldn't even believe that I was there, that she was going to talk about this so openly. And I just sat in the corner, like holding my breath. And I was really glad I did it. It felt like this huge, courageous thing that I did for myself, by myself. I was married. I had my first child at home, but I went off and did this major, seemingly major thing for me. And it was. Reading her book was life-changing, honestly. So I
Mm.
feel like you and Marissa, and maybe there's some others I don't know of out there that are, sort of the next generation mother wound, healing the mother wound. And so
Yeah.
let's talk about the healing piece. Like I know this is a complicated, of course, a complex topic, but I think it might be nice to share, like, what does someone do like when they're first discovering or they're just part way through their healing journey, you know,
Yeah.
take some next
Yeah.
steps.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned the name of the author or the writer,
Mm.
but I did I haven't read the book, and I just wanted to um, relate to how I felt. Sorry, in my body, the energy of how you spoke about it, and the courage to actually take action,
Mm.
and do something for myself, for yourself, as a way of finding a safe space and finding acknowledgement for your loss.
Mhm.
And I think that's a good way to actually start with. That's a good place to start with the healing.
Yeah.
It can feel really quite intimidating
Mm.
to approach some healing work for the mother wound, and I do want to name it because
Mm.
I know it took me many years until I was able to really turn a corner and go to a therapist. Um, there is kind of like a drive to move on, to move beyond, to design a different life for yourself. And it can be really intimidating to kind of, say, oh, I don't want to talk about my mom. I don't want to go back there. So these are 2 points that I'll come back to in a moment about the talking and the coming back to, because these are really important aspects of the way that I chose to work with healing the mother wound and the kind of offers that I'm offering women. But yeah, sometimes finding, a book that gives some kind of support. I mentioned in my definition what I consider to be the three characteristics that are appearing in a healthy motherhood. And
Mm.
they're also a part of what should be, in my view, a part of a healing process. So the piece of safety, the piece of guidance, and the piece of nourishment. So I can unpack each of them a little bit. Um, there is a great need to feel a safe environment with the people that you choose to work with. And I will come back to that over and over again because the mother wound is a relational wound. It's a wound that happens in a relationship, and probably the most important relationship that we have in life. Even if, like one of my clients, well, let me tell you a little bit about Diana. She came to me after she's done a lot of work actually on the mother wound,
Mm.
and she was adopted. She was given to adoption when she was 2 years old. And she came to me actually because she's an opera singer,
Mm.
and she felt that she couldn't reach to the kind of international stages that she wanted to reach. She felt like whatever she did, any kind of healing work that she did before, she hit a ceiling.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm including that because the relationship that we have with our mother can include the relationship with absence or a relationship of absence. And so that includes adoption, or when a mother is devoting herself to a career, which I really have to say again, there's no blame or shaming here, but the result could be that the mother is just simply not at home for her
Mm.
child, for her daughter. Yeah.
Right.
And so Diana told me that one of her previous therapists kept on bringing in an agenda that in order to heal, she needed to get back in touch with her biological mother, where she actually knew where she lived. She actually knew how to locate her. And she really didn't want to do that.
Mm.
And she told me, Diana, that she bled for weeks and weeks on after she's actually done it. It's like her whole body was objecting and resisting that so much. So that piece of safety that I'm talking
Wow.
about is, yeah,
Mm.
we don't often consider the kind of obvious symptoms that our physical body gives us to tell us, is this safe for me or is this not safe for me? Yeah. So safety is a big piece in healing the mother wound, and um, there are there is a big missing piece, especially from traditional psychology, psychotherapy traditions, where there is an agenda of forgiving and accepting one's mother no matter what.
Mm,
And that just, increases the shame and the guilt and brings so much complexity to an inner life that is already with quite a lot of knots, that needs safety, that needs a relationship that is not judgmental and is accommodating, to work together in a collaboration to see what is the right way for you as an adult woman to move forward in your life.
mhm,
The second piece is guidance. So having some context for the mother wound through reading books. One book in particular that I found very beneficial was Kelly McDaniel's Mother Hunger.
yes.
Um, so I found her book to be kind of as close as possible to the mother wound
Mhm,
that I could find today in the market. Um, and having some context of, we spoke earlier about having the lenses. Yeah,
mm,
so for example, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you will receive a welcome email, excuse me, of a series of 3 emails, where in each email I unpack one of these elements of the mother wound and the healing of the mother wound, because these 3 pieces are really
mm,
what I find to be fundamental to the healing process. And having some context, understanding, oh, it's actually not my fault that I'm trying to seek for love in the wrong places. I am hungry for love. So I didn't get that at home. So I just keep on seeking that. Having different types of contexts that help you reframe your experiences to understand how they have come to be, but also including guidance. Again, finding with any kind of questions that you have, for example, should I approach that agent? Should I not? Should I break into the radio stations and go ahead with this big dream and big project that I have in mind, or should I not? Is finding the guidance that comes from within.
mm,
And nobody can tell you that. But
mhm,
if you work with somebody that helps you realize that, helps you with the right tools to bring that out from you, then that's the guidance that you need. And then there is nourishment. And nourishment goes way beyond self-care.
mm,
Yeah. It has nothing to do with get a bubble bath. I don't love bubble bath. I love salt bath.
mm.
But and
Same.
it's a great, yeah, it's a great respite, right? And it's kind of very relaxing. But when I talk about nourishment, especially in the healing context, I talk about having experiences that were not possible before.
Mhm,
And let me give an example. Um,
mm,
when I started working with Genevieve, I could see that, she's done a lot of somatic experiencing, and she would name all of her experiences and do so much of the work by herself. And I did something that we do in Hakomi therapy, because I'm a Hakomi therapist. I said to her, listen to what happens when I tell you, you don't have to work so hard.
mm.
I can see your shoulders dropping.
Yes.
And Genevieve's response was like, it's like I've waited to hear that for 60 years.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's just an example of an experience that we're able to receive from somebody who sees us and
Hmm.
say, hey, we're not here to work hard. I know that everybody say that therapy is hard work, but we're having a lot of fun in sessions. And
Mm.
yeah, so when you have somebody that sees you like that, you can get a taste of what it's like when somebody sees you trying to do that all by yourself because that's what you're used to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and to me, that one sentence of you don't have to work hard, which is something that I have trained myself to realize. In even hearing it, it moved me. As you saw, my shoulders relaxed, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Um, but for me, that addresses safety because it's not necessarily it's not safe to overwork, period. That that's guidance and nourishment. That really touches all three for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They're kind of like overlapping and they're weaved in, but they can point to distinct qualities of what they actually allow us
Hmm.
in the healing process.
Hmm. Wow. I love how you have it so clearly outlined, actually. So when, I asked the question, like, what do we do? And it feels, and again, this really resonates for what I experienced of you when I was first introduced to you at the summit. It's like this just generous, calm, clear. These are the three areas that need to be addressed. And when addressed, are healing for our beings, safety,
Hmm.
inner guidance, and nourishment, which all of these things are inner with also a bit an outer reflection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful.
Hmm.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, really important. Ooh, you brought up one of my favorite topics, and I think we'll take a quick commercial break and come back to the piece around relationship that you
Hmm.
dropped in there around, right? Around wanting love, that hunger for love, and what happens when there's a mother wound. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio. We are here today talking about the mother wound with Shelly Sharon. Such an important topic for me personally. I'm weeping during the commercial break. So I invite anybody who's also weeping with me to grab a tissue, a cup of tea, and join us for this last segment of this radio show today. Well, I'll just bring up what I brought to you during the break, and I'd love to hear your reflections. One of the things that showed up for me while listening to you share about the healing that's possible with the mother wound, which I certainly have experienced in myself. We're actually just after Mother's Day here when we're doing the recording Mother's Day in the US. And I think for the first time in 49 years, I had a Mother's Day that did not include the grief of losing my mother or the grief of my relationship with her. I just had a beautiful day. I didn't even really think of her so much. And when I thought of her, I just felt gratitude. And I just want to say that's a miracle because it really is. I really feels like a miracle. So one thing I want to say just now is that, that healing is so possible, entirely possible. And there were a gazillion years so far that I would not have believed that to be true because of how painful
Hmm.
it was and how much shame I was holding around it. So I feel so grateful and so blessed for the healing that I was able to really recognize yesterday for Mother's Day. So
Yeah.
that's one just piece I wanted to say. But the other piece, as I was listening to you, when you were talking about one of your clients that was reaching the glass ceiling in her work, and sort of teasing that out and how that relates to the mother wound, which is something I don't think I've thought of either in terms of how that would relate to the mother wound. And what occurred to me, and I look forward to hearing from you, the expert, what occurred to me from this place is the familiarity with not having, because there's this at least well, no, actually, probably in all cases of the mother wound, there's an absence, right? You already spoke about the absence of safety, the absence of guidance, the absence of nourishment, somewhere on the continuum for all three of those. And so we know that we create and draw to us the familiar. We can talk about that in psychology, all, ongoing. So it just occurred to me that for those of us with mother wounds that aren't in partnership in long-term partnership or have reached a glass ceiling in work and but have this strong desire for more, that maybe there's a holding steady because of the familiar piece of not having. Even though the not having is not is not wanted. It's not what the desire is, but we might stay stuck because of the familiar energy of not having. So I'm going to turn it over to you because
Yeah.
I'm letting this is all landing for me in this moment.
Yeah, and I love that it lands for you in the moment because, it's a real illustration of how alive this process of healing the mother wound can be. Like it's not, it really brings it down to earth, right? Yeah, it's like this is how it looks like. It looks like having some downloads of insights. It looks like realizing what is possible that previously we might have thought that it's not possible, that, oh, I can't change my mother, or the past is the past, is the different kind of sentences that I often hear from women or online. On Robin, on Sunday, I watched a film. It's called Emily, and it's about the life of Emily Bronte, the writer. There was a moment where she decided to accompany her older sister to Belgium. And her father, their mother passed away when they were young.
The
Yeah,
movie.
you
Yeah, of
watched that. There
course.
was a moment there when he accompanied them to the carriage, and he said to her, "We expect great things." And my heart,
Ugh.
even hearing that now, I feel like nobody expected anything from me.
Hmm.
The only thing that I was expected was to survive.
Hmm.
So when I told you earlier about Diana, is like, yeah, this absence is something that we may or we may not be aware of, but it's like in the back, like we don't really have somebody who has our back. And I have loads of people today in my life that have my back. Yeah, really many.
Nice.
My husband is was a kind of like in a missionary a misery, I think the right word is, to teach me what untraumatic bond looks like and what real love is. Yeah, when you're not hungry for love and you keep on looking for it and willing to just take crumbs because there is a belief that, oh, but maybe that person really tells me how beautiful I am and how lovely I am, and it's already enough, where they completely are uninterested in your dreams, what you want to do in life, the way that you respond to situations, your sensitivity to sensory input, or so many other things are just kind of like
Hmm.
they don't care about, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that piece that we spoke about earlier, nourishment, is is aligned with healing the absence. And I love that you defined in one way what healing can look like. It could look like I'm actually not grieving anymore on Mother's Day. I wrote a blog post about
Yes,
ambiguous
I read it.
grief.
I read it.
Yeah, yeah, for Mother's
Yeah.
Day. It could look like I don't get triggered anymore about the same people that used to trigger me because they remind me of my mother. or it could look like I don't feel like I need to be the savior. This shows in the free gift that I offer to your listeners. Yeah, I named the three common mother wound types, and one of them is the savior.
Mm,
Um, the sense that it's my responsibility to offer something, to do something. It's my responsibility to take care of my mother. Yeah, that was mine. A
yes.
lot of my clients have that. Um, Healing can be like you don't have this underlying buzz of rage that sometimes just bursts out in spite of your best effort to keep it in.
Yes.
It could also be, and I want to name that, it could also be that you realize that you're actually not suffering from depression, or a depression is masking
Mm,
of, or the mother wound is a response to the mother wound.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful.
Um, yeah, so when we don't have somebody who expects from us great things in a positive way, like in the in a way that is nourishing for us, not as a compressor,
Right.
as a pressure cooker, um, as a mother who is never happy with her child and is always looking for more, more, more. No,
No.
but in a balanced way, in a way of saying, that is old language, but in a way of saying, I believe in you.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I believe in you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you can go out and explore, you can go out and try. And if something doesn't work, I'm gonna be here for you and I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna offer you guidance because I can do that
Mhm.
if you wanted it. Yeah, so when we live with our absence, as you named it, we become hungry.
Mm,
Yeah,
yes. Right.
yeah,
Right. Yes. And then that hunger, we could do a whole other episode on that.
yeah.
How we as humans with mother wounds can then try to fill that hunger with all kinds of things. And you mentioned, I mean, food, obviously one of them, or alcohol or something, but you mentioned earlier, and we'll just to name it briefly, like filling it with relationships that aren't appropriate or aren't a match or worse,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
just because that hunger is so strong and so deep
Yeah,
inside.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. This is just so nourishing, so nourishing for me. I hope it's been really nourishing for our listeners. I wonder if you have anything you want to offer that you haven't said yet today, Shelley, that you really want our listeners to know or hear before we sign off for today.
I think we've really touched on many things, and perhaps to repeat for anyone who listens, what I what I really wish for you is to feel safe within your own body and within your own life.
Mm,
And I wish for you to trust the guidance that you receive from within and trust that guidance is available for you.
mm,
And I wish for you to receive the nourishment that you are worthy of and to help that to rewrite the experiences that you've had to expect great things
mhm,
in life, whether it's in relationships or career or physical health in any arena of life.
mm. Ugh, beautiful. Yes to that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really want to encourage all of our listeners to find the show notes, to connect with Shelly Sharon, Sharon, if you're just listening um, online, and to download your free gift. I'm on your email list. I read your newsletters. That's another thing people don't typically do these days. I read
Mm.
your newsletters, and I love actually what you shared earlier about what your free gift is going to offer, the three types of I'll say archetypes, you used a different word, um,
Hmm.
of types of ourselves or our personalities that show up. You said savior, and I was like, yes, that's the one I've been working on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really, really helpful to be able to see ourselves more clearly and then make conscious choices instead of sort of following these places from wounded parts. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks to our listeners, and we will see you next week on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. This is Come Back to Love. I'm Robin Vogel, your host. We're here every Thursday, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you soon. Have a beautiful day, everybody.